Chapter 2. Asher? His dad said with a slight hint of worry in his voice, while he squinted his eyes to try to see what Asher was doing on the floor. He started walking slowly towards him. Asher made a great effort to focus on his father, but it was incredibly hard when the wolf was standing still next to him. "This is the only time that you will get rid of me this easily. You have been warned, boy." After saying this, the wolf vanished. Asher needed to calm down, at least a little, so that he could come up with something to say to his dad. Something that made sense. He wasn't about to tell his father how a wolf had just talked to him and also attacked him. Even if his dad knew that Asher didn't like lies, he would have a very hard time believing all of that. "Dad!" Asher yelped. "What happened to you?" Gabriel asked, sounding concerned. "You're bleeding and looking all pale." "Well, there was a snowfall, so I came outside to watch the snow. Then I decided to build a snowman, and in the middle of it, I slipped, and my arm landed on one of the branches that I had grabbed for the snowman's arms. And I got all scratched, but I'm okay, Dad. I just need to wash it, I think." Asher tried to sound calm as he explained all this. He was having a hard time, though, because now that he had managed to focus less on the whole deal with the wolf, the pain from the animal's scratch had taken center stage in his mind. Despite his best efforts to fake a smile, the reality was that his wound was hurting really bad. Asher wanted to scream. That sounds like terrible luck, son. I'm sorry that your birthday started with you getting hurt," Asher's dad said as he gave him a hand to help him stand up. "Let's go back inside. I'll look for some healing cream for you to put on after having cleaned the area. It'll be good for your wound, even if it doesn't hurt that much." "Yeah, totally. Thanks, Dad," Asher replied, still making a big effort not to wince. They tiptoed back into the cabin, trying to be as silent as possible, while they made their way into the bathroom where the first aid kit was. Asher let some tap water run over his wound, slightly pressing his lips. Then, he cleaned it thoroughly with soap. This process resembled Asher's mental image of what getting burned with acid could feel like. He flinched and grimaced as he washed his wound, little drops of salty water forming around the edges of his eyes. Once the blood had been completely removed from Asher's skin, the shape of the scratch became clear. 4 almost perfectly parallel lines had cut into his skin. Asher tried to cover the injury quickly with some bandages, but his dad caught a glimpse before he was done. "Wait, Asher, let me take a look." "Don't worry, Dad, I'm almost done here," Asher replied, fumbling with the bandages as he did his best to look as calm as possible. "Okay, it's just that your injury kind of looked like a scratch from an animal," his dad mused. "Did something else happen by any chance?" he asked, furrowing his brow. "No, Dad, I guess the branch was just weirdly shaped," Asher said, chuckling. That seemed to be enough for his dad, because he stopped looking intently at the bandages and nodded at him in a more relaxed way. After this, he stepped outside of the bathroom and sat on a couch in the living room. As soon as his dad was out of sight, Asher let out a big sigh. On one hand, he was relieved that the tense moment was over. On the other hand, he was feeling pretty bad at what had just happened. Asher had lied, and more than once. He hated lies. He always went out of his way not to lie. But he had been so scared of what his father would think of him that he had preferred to lie. What was he getting into? This wasn't like him. Asher was even more confused now. Not wanting to look suspicious in front of his father, Asher walked towards the living room and joined him. "Hey, Dad, so what were you doing outside around midnight yourself? Huh?" Asher asked with a curious and playful look in his eyes. "Now that is a great question," he replied, laughing. "It might not be known to you, son, but your dad likes snow a lot, too." Asher grinned in surprise. "That's cool. Why do you like it?" The genuine smile on his dad's face faded away a bit. It turned into a sort of forced smile. "Well, it just reminds me of really good times. That's all," he said, sounding wistful. "I don't want to bore you with the details. It's just that the last song that I composed had to do with snow and falling in love. I really liked it. Totally inspired by your mom, by the way." That had been unexpected, Asher thought. He wasn't ready to talk about his dad's old music days, so he simply tried his best to smile and nod. In an attempt to wrap things up quickly, Asher changed the subject. "Oh, before I go to bed, I just wanted to say thanks for having taken Friday off from work so we could come to the cabin with some daylight. I know that you rarely do it, so thanks." Asher noticed right away that he had unconsciously mentioned another tricky subject. He turned his head slightly to the side to avert his dad's eyes. Talking about Gabriel Salazar's work life was always a delicate issue. "Of course, son. I had to do it. This isn't just any birthday after all." Asher turned his head to face his dad again. Even though his words had sounded happy and excited, he was staring blankly at a wall now. Something bitter seemed to be taking over Gabriel's face. Feeling guilty for having said something apparently upsetting to his father, Asher found himself not knowing what else to say. After a couple of uncomfortable seconds, he decided that it was best to leave in order to prevent things from becoming even more awkward. "Well, I think I'm going to go to bed now. Got a big day ahead." Gabriel nodded, still looking at the wall. "Yes, let's do that. But remember to be careful so we don't wake anyone up." They each walked quietly up the stairs and towards their rooms. Once Asher was back in bed, he looked at the time. It was 1:30 a.m. There were still several hours left before his birthday activities officially began. He was feeling pretty tired, but in theory, he still had plenty of time left to sleep a lot and wake up rested and have a great birthday. In theory. In practice, though, Asher was beginning to feel uneasy. The encounter with the wolf had started to play in Asher's mind like a little horror movie. Everything scared Asher, but there was one thing that made him feel the most terrified. It was what the wolf had said before leaving. "This is the only time that you'll get rid of me that easily. This is the only time? Only time?" There was one clear meaning to that. The wolf was coming back. The sole idea of this made Asher's eyes become wide awake and fully alert. His breath threatened to escape his control. Asher grabbed the sheet that covered him with his right hand and crumpled it up as he tried to release some of those heightened nerves. It wasn't enough. He grabbed the sheet with his left hand as well and did the same thing, trying to slow down his breathing. But new thoughts just came rushing into Asher's mind at a surprising speed. If the wolf came back, when the wolf came back, things would probably be even worse. No time would be wasted in introductions. The wolf would probably go straight into the subject matter: Asher killing Noah. And the idea of that would drive Asher to dark and unknown places again. His mind, his body, they would all go out of control, and fear and despair, like he had never known before, would suffocate him, threatening to destroy him. Asher had been lucky to be able to keep this first encounter a secret from his parents. But if this happened more times, it would become too much for Asher. Honestly, it would probably be too much for anyone, Asher thought. He wouldn't be able to pretend that nothing horrible had just happened to him. He wouldn't be able to fake smiles and make stuff up all the time, and his parents would definitely find out. Gabriel and Emma Salazar would be horrified when they found out that their eldest son, Asher Salazar, had completely gone insane after turning 15 years old. The boy who they had always described as a caring person had suddenly developed the desire to kill his younger brother. How had this happened? What had they done wrong? Those would be the questions screaming in his parents' heads. And of course, Gabriel and Emma would have to do what was necessary and best for the family and even for society as a whole, because if this kid wanted to kill a baby, what else would he be capable of? Asher Salazar would become a public menace at the age of 15. A restraining order? A psychiatric ward? Juvie? Prison? Asher didn't know, but what he did know was that no one would believe him if he said that it was a wolf who put those thoughts in his mind. No one would believe that the thoughts that occupied his mind in such an insistent manner weren't really his, that he really did not want to kill his brother Noah, that it was a wolf who made him think of that. How would anyone believe something so illogical? Asher would be feared by his family, then by his friends, and probably by society if his story became public. One by one, Asher would be rejected by everyone he knew. One by one, Asher would lose any person who had ever loved him. And this was what he feared the most. In the middle of the night and the quiet, the possibility of a life without his loved ones began to haunt Asher. The only way to prevent all that pain, if there was one, would be to disappear before things became too complicated to handle. He would have to go far away, someplace where no one knew him, someplace where even the wolf couldn't reach him. He could start over. Hopefully, that would still be possible. Hopefully, he would be able to find new friends and a new life where he could grow into a happy adult and heal from the wounds of his past. This would be Asher's future if the wolf came back. The heavy weight of these conclusions quickly dropped from Asher's head, right into his stomach. A big, tight knot made Asher feel like he wanted to throw up. His hands began to shake, then his arms. Within less than a minute, Asher's whole body was shaking. He needed to find an effective way to calm down. Asher instinctively thought about Noah being asleep close by. Watching his baby brother sleep so calmly as he usually did was always comforting for Asher. He felt like he somehow absorbed some of Noah's peacefulness. In his despair, Asher immediately turned on the overhead lights. After having jumped out of his bed, Asher walked towards Noah's crib, which was at the other end of the room. He rushed towards it, trying not to make a sound, but his breathing had become gradually more shallow. Being silent was nearly impossible. Asher finally reached the crib. He put his hands firmly on the gate in front of him. Feeling the smooth wood beneath his hands and knowing that his brother was close gave Asher a little bit of hope. He would be able to calm down very soon as he could observe Noah sleeping peacefully. Feeling gradually more hopeful, Asher leaned into the crib slowly. At the height of his hopefulness, he touched Noah's blanket and moved it a bit so that he could see his baby brother's calm face. It had all happened so fast that Asher hadn't even been able to stop himself from screaming. As soon as he had caught a glimpse of Noah's face, flashes of him hurting Noah had immediately flooded his mind. He saw himself using his hands to scratch his brother's face and neck. The slashes were deep, and the blood was everywhere. It was a horrible sight. And it had felt so real, as if Asher had been a second away from acting it all out. A tremendous amount of fear had started running through his whole body like a giant chill. Asher had never felt so scared in his life. That's when the unsuppressed scream had come out of his mouth. Asher instinctively backed away from the crib in panic. He kept walking backwards as if pulled by an invisible string until he bumped into something. He quickly turned around and saw them. Those murderous amber eyes and the wolf they belonged to.